Try here. Stop.
An animated series that vanished from memory, a Hollywood deal that backfired into comedy gold, and a star who disappeared for 23 years. Spaceballs became one of the most quotable sci-fi comedies of the 1980s. But behind the scenes, Mel Brooks was making moves that would change everything. Today, we'll show you 10 facts you never knew about Spaceballs, and why this parody legend is finally getting the sequel fans have waited decades for. Number 1. George Lucas made one deal that created the film's best joke. When Mel Brooks decided to make a Star Wars parody, he did what he always did. He asked permission first. Just like calling Alfred Hitchcock before making High Anxiety, Brooks sent the Spaceballs script directly to George Lucas. Lucas loved it. He'd seen Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein and was a huge fan. But he had one non-negotiable condition: no action figures. Lucas explained that if Brooks made Spaceballs toys, they'd look too much like Star Wars action figures. That would be a problem for his lawyers and business affairs department. So Lucas signed a fair use agreement allowing Brooks to parody Star Wars as long as he promised not to sell any merchandise. Brooks agreed, and that restriction became the film's most brilliant scene. The entire yogurt merchandising sequence, Spaceballs the t-shirt, Spaceballs the lunchbox, Spaceballs the flamethrower, exists because Brooks couldn't actually sell any of it. Lucas worried about protecting his merchandising empire, and Brooks turned that concern into one of cinema's sharpest commentaries on Hollywood commercialism. Even the action figures Dark Helmet plays with in the movie are the only Spaceballs toys ever officially created. They were made for that one scene and never hit store shelves. The irony is perfect, and it only happened because of Lucas's one rule. Number 2. Rick Moranis left Hollywood to raise his kid. In 1991, Rick Moranis' wife died of breast cancer, leaving him with 2 young children, Rachel and Mitchell. He had to become a full-time single parent and step back from acting. His last major live-action film was Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves in 1997. After that, he disappeared from Hollywood for 28 years. He did occasional voice work for animated films and released comedy albums, but he stayed away from cameras. In a 2005 interview, Moranis said he was a single parent and found it too difficult to manage raising his kids while traveling for movies. When asked if he regretted the decision, his answer was clear. He has absolutely no regrets. His life is wonderful. Now, after 28 years away, Moranis is finally coming back, but only for one movie. Number 3. Spaceballs 2 is actually happening. For decades, Spaceballs 2, the search for more money, was the ultimate inside joke. It was teased at the end of the original film, but nobody believed it would happen. Until June 2025, when Amazon MGM Studios made it official. Spaceballs 2 is coming in 2027, exactly 40 years after the original. Rick Moranis returns as Dark Helmet. Bill Pullman is back as Lone Star. Mel Brooks, now 99 years old, reprises his role as Yogurt. Daphne Zuniga returns as Princess Vespa, and George Weiner is back as Colonel Sanders. Josh Gad co-wrote the script with Dan Hernandez and Benji Simmet. Josh Greenbaum is directing. New cast includes Keke Palmer and Louis Pullman, Bill Pullman's real-life son, who plays a character named Starburst. Production began in September 2025 in Sydney. The cast did a table read together, and Amazon released behind-the-scenes photos showing everyone gathered around scripts. This is the role that brought Moranis out of retirement. Not Ghostbusters, not Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Spaceballs pulled him back. Number 4. An entire animated series existed and everyone forgot. Here's a question that stumps most Spaceballs fans. What happened in 2008? The answer is Spaceballs, the animated series. It premiered on G4 and Super Channel, ran for 13 episodes, then vanished so completely that people actively argue it never existed. But it did. Mel Brooks executive produced it and reprised both his roles as President Scrooge and Yogurt. Daphne Zuniga returned as Princess Vespa. Joan Rivers came back as Dot Matrix. Since Rick Moranis was retired, D. Bradley Baker voiced Dark Helmet. The show premiered September 21, 2008, right after an airing of the original film. It expanded the Spaceballs universe to parody everything from Harry Potter to Grand Theft Auto. So why does nobody remember it? Because it was terrible. The animation looked cheap, the jokes fell flat, critics savaged it, and fans hated it. Within one season, it was canceled and buried so deep that even dedicated fans genuinely believe it never happened. Number 5. John Candy improvised the film's most memorable lines. John Candy was famous for improvisation, and Mel Brooks gave him freedom to play with scenes. Some of Barf's best moments came from Candy just riffing on set. The "I'm a Mog, half man, half dog, I'm my own best friend" line. That specific delivery and energy came from Candy building on what was written. Brooks understood that comedy works best when actors feel free to find the funny in the moment. He'd set up the structure, then let performers like Candy discover beats that made the material sing. This approach created one of the film's most memorable characters. Barf could have been a one-note joke, but Candy gave him warmth and heart. The relationship between Lone Star and Barf works because Candy and Bill Pullman had genuine chemistry. Number 6. James Cameron used miniatures and tape-to-fake computer graphics. One of Spaceballs' most futuristic effects wasn't computer-generated at all. The wireframe city on navigation displays? That was miniatures, black paint, and reflective tape. James Cameron, years before Terminator and Titanic, worked on Spaceballs as a special effects artist. He and his team built a detailed miniature Manhattan model and painted it entirely black. Then they lined building edges with bright reflective tape. Under black light, those glowing outlines transformed the model into what looked like 1980s vector graphics. A camera moving through that miniature created the illusion of flying over a digital cityscape. What makes this better? That miniature was later repainted and reused in Blade Runner for a completely different dystopian skyline. Number 7. President Scroob is Brooks spelled backwards. Sometimes the best jokes hide in plain sight. President Scroob, the bumbling leader of Planet Spaceball played by Mel Brooks, has a name that's an anagram. Scroob is Brooks spelled backwards. It's obvious once you know it, but most people watch the entire film without catching it. Brooks loved these metatextual jokes, ways to sign his work without being too obvious. The character itself is brilliant self-parody. Brooks plays Scroob as incompetent, vain, and completely out of his depth. He's a leader who got his position through luck rather than skill. Having Brooks play both Scroob and Yogurt creates fun dynamics. The villain and the wise mentor are both the same person, adding another layer to the film's self-aware comedy. Number 8. Tesla's Plaid mode is named after this movie. In 2021, Elon Musk introduced Tesla's fastest acceleration mode and called it Plaid mode. The name comes directly from Spaceballs. In the film, when Dark Helmet orders his ship beyond light speed, they hit ludicrous speed. When they need to go even faster, they activate the ultimate velocity and the ship's exterior changes to plaid. "They've gone to plaid," the crew shouts. Musk, a known fan of pop culture references, named Tesla's highest performance mode after that scene. The cars even display a plaid animation on dashboard screens when activated, just like in the movie. A joke from a 1987 parody became the name for cutting-edge electric car technology. Brooks created a visual gag about impossibly fast speeds, and 34 years later, a tech billionaire turned it into reality. That's the kind of legacy that proves Spaceballs transcended its origins as a simple Star Wars parody. Number 9. The film lost money in theaters, but won on home video. Spaceballs premiered in June 1987 with a production budget around $22 million. It made approximately $38 million at the domestic box office. That sounds profitable until you factor in marketing costs and theater splits. In Hollywood accounting, Spaceballs was a disappointment. It opened 5th place its first weekend, behind Beverly Hills Cop 2 and The Untouchables. Critics were mixed. Roger Ebert gave it 2.5 stars, calling it a cheerfully confident ripoff, but noting it didn't have enough great moments. But something happened after theaters. Home video turned Spaceballs into a phenomenon. People watched it repeatedly. They quoted it endlessly. They introduced it to their kids. The film became more successful on VHS and DVD than it ever was in cinemas. Number 10. Mel Brooks is 99 years old and still making movies. Mel Brooks turned 99 in 2025. He was born in 1926. He lived through the Great Depression, World War II, the entire history of television, and the entire history of the internet. And he's still working. Brooks started writing for Sid Caesar's variety shows in the 1950s. He co-created Get Smart. He directed Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, High Anxiety, History of the World Part 1, and Spaceballs. He's one of the few people to achieve EGOT status, Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony Awards. Now, at 99, he's producing Spaceballs 2 and reprising his role as Yogurt. He won't direct or write this time, but his involvement ensures the sequel maintains the original spirit. Brooks is approaching his 100th birthday by making a sequel to a movie he released when he was 60. That dedication to comedy, that refusal to stop creating, defines everything he's done throughout his career. He's not making Spaceballs 2 because he needs money or attention. He's making it because he still loves making people laugh. From a Hollywood deal that accidentally created comedy gold to a forgotten animated series, Spaceballs has a history as wild as any space adventure. Rick Moranis walked away from everything and is only now returning. Mel Brooks is still working at 99, and in 2027, we're finally getting the sequel fans have joked about for 40 years. Which of these facts surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. If you stuck to the end of this video, then you're definitely interested in what happens when making movies. To learn more about how the most famous films were produced and all the secrets that happen behind the scenes, subscribe to our channel and leave a like.